Welcome back to the channel and welcome back to another edition of the Spurs Chat podcast, where in this edition we'll be talking about the draw at St Mary's, Southampton 3, Tottenham Hotspur 3. Just as you thought, Spurs had the 3 points in the bag and we were going to be sitting in third spot going into the international break. Of course, this is Tottenham Hotspur. We should know better than that. I've got three very special guests to talk about today's game. We've got presenter Russ Williams back with us. Russ, how are you? We'll talk about the football in a minute, but how are you?
Yes, no, I'm very, very good. I'm concerned about you when you get back to the stadium, go nowhere near the skywalk. Okay, Chris, you just stay clear. Oh, well, good, mate. Well, ish.
Yeah, there's 10 games to go, and I'm counting them down. Put it that way, Russ.
Yeah.
We've also got actor Ricky Norwood back with us. Rick, how are you?
I was fine. I was absolutely fine. The day has been lovely. The sun has been shining. It has been a little bit warmer at these sides. Do you know what I mean? And then the football started, and it was fine for a long time. It was fine, and then the same old. We'll get in. I'm gonna try and keep a smile on my face, but my gosh, let me tell you, I was super angry by the end of that game. But I'm all right. I'm okay. Let's get it on.
And we've also got Richard Whitehead back with us. Rich, the man that brings the trophies to this channel and to Tottenham Hotspur. How are you, Rich?
Yeah. Next. That was. Do you know what? As well, how can a football team spoil your weekend? I'll tell you how. The next hour and 20 minutes.
I was just saying to Russ actually off air. When these sorts of things happen to Spurs, you've normally got the fans inside the stadium shouting, swearing, being very angry. And the mood at the end of that game was everybody was just so quiet. So quiet. It's like unbelievable. And funny enough, I don't know whether to laugh or cry at this, but at the end of the game, when the players were shaking hands, only Heung-min Son and Harry Kane come over to applaud the away fans, but they put the song on Unbelievable, which it just sums up our day.
Yeah.
Russ, let's start the show with you. Give me your thoughts on today's game.
Well, in a word, unacceptable. I mean, there we are playing the bottom club in the league, who incidentally have scored nearly, I think it's either a quarter, it could even be a third of their goals at home in 45 minutes against us today. We start slow, but we edge into the game, get a goal, and then within a minute of the start of the second half, I think, Che Adams pops up, puts some super duper juice in the Saints' veins, and it's 1-1. Then, after letting them completely and utterly control the game for large periods of the second half, we get a second goal, and we're all breathing a sigh of relief, because the problem is with Tottenham, and we all know it if we're honest, how many times have we played must-win games when we never do? They must-win in Tottenham language means don't win. And it's happened repeatedly over the years. Then we get, Harry is Harry, no service, gets one chance, bang, 2-1. And then Perisic pops up and looks as though he's the most relieved man in the whole of Europe, because he's actually done what he was meant to do for the club, and he got his first goal for us. So well done. A little bit late. And then guess who gets the second? Walcott. And then it's a penalty, and Ward-Prowse, he's not going to miss. So we're in third, 3-1 up, and it's Poundland defending again. That's all I can say. And if you look at the table now, Newcastle, what a result of Forest. They needed to win. That's a bit of football language I don't think Spurs understand. And, they've got 2 games in hand on us. Not all easy games, but you have to say that fourth is looking extremely precarious. But after all that, somehow we are fourth. But it's the defending. It's absolutely terrible. Persisting with 2 in midfield. Yeah. Don't get it. And and it's
Exactly, away from home.
rigid Conte.
No.
Russ, can I ask how you're feeling about Antonio Conte right now?
If it were my decision, and I was his biggest fan when he came in, it's not right. The indecision for me off the pitch is translating into the players. I don't like the riddles that he speaks in. I don't think any Spurs fans do. The situation should have been a lot clearer and should have been sorted out in the World Cup. I don't like him saying, for example, as he did in the last 24 hours about Harry Kane, oh, it's for the player and the club to sort out, nothing to do with me. Well, that tells you that he's not part of it, doesn't it? I don't like him saying, Jed Spence, that's a club player. Arno Danjuma, that's a club player. I mean, what a terrible message to send out to those players and to the fans that he's got players that we all know he won't pick because he hasn't bought them. Well, Daniel Levy has given him £235 million, by the way. So, you know, he's had opportunities in nearly 18 months at the club. I personally, in the international break, would say, look, let's do a deal. Mutual consent, you're off, and take a chance. But Daniel Levy, I don't think will. My prediction is that Daniel Levy will say, Antonio Conte is the best chance of fourth that we've got. I'm sticking with him until the end of the season. And I think it's damaging. We know that we've got a load of players that are not good enough for the sort of football we want to play and the success that we want the club to have. We've all spoken about that ad infinitum. That can be sorted out at the end of the season. But right now, we've got a manager who clearly is not going to be there and looks like he doesn't want to be there. So in many respects, I think, what's the point anymore?
Rick, let's come to you. Let's get your thoughts on today's game.
Bro, I mean, I think I'll probably have to speak about Southampton. Southampton were well worth the draw overall. They were battling for their lives. They've had some really kind of unlucky games during the season, and they played like Man City today. They played like vintage Liverpool today. They attacked with pace. They attacked with no fear. Even when we scored the first one, that didn't really kind of dampen their spirits. They came out of the second half roaring and ready to go, and then they showed us what they was about in the second half. They totally controlled the majority of the second half. When we, when we went 3-1 up, we still looked like the ones that were behind. Do you know what I mean? We still looked like we was on the edge of our boxes defending. And when I switch it over to Tottenham, if you're going to play a back three and you've only got one defender that can play that position, it's not going to amount to much. Do you know what I mean? Unless you're playing a side like Nottingham Forest last week, where their away record and form is not great, and they didn't really have a go last week. So, when teams don't have a go and when they get dampened and damaged by the goals that they have conceded, then we can control the game. But if they refuse to lose, or if they refuse to quit, then we've got a problem on our hands. And we had players that came onto the field. I mean, we had a lot of injuries. I don't know what happened with Richarlison today. I left to go to the toilet. I came back and he was going off, and I didn't see no replay of an injury or like a sliding challenge, or I didn't see nothing. I just saw him going off. So I was like, well, okay then. And it was a bit of a crazy first half with all of the injuries. I think that, with Davies off the pitch as well, I think that hurt us, because Theo Walcott could then run down that line and do what he wanted. We know that he's still got pace about him, even though he's 34. And we know it's easy to run past Perisic as well. So even though Perisic got the goal on the defensive side, on the unit side, it was a bit all over the place. I think it was a great strike by Pedro Porro. I think Pedro, being in that right wing spot, allows us to see what Conte was trying to bring to this side with the wing backs and how important they were. I thought he was fantastic first half, first 60. No, what? Let me just say first half. You know, he's movement, he's bravery, he's attacking prowess, he's ferocity. He had the crosses in there, he had acute passes in there, and of course, what a strike for the first goal. What a strike for the first goal. So it was great for him. But just once we went 3-1 up, bruv, I don't know how we collapsed and how we allowed Southampton to just run through us time and time again. You know, the youth in that side, in the Southampton side, had no fear, and they were up for the fight. And their manager, their newly appointed manager, really gave them the kind of gusto to go out there and at least get a point. It was never a penalty for me. Still not a penalty for me. I thought the Maitland-Niles penalty shout was more of a penalty, even though it wasn't. But it was more of a penalty than that Pape Sarr conceding a penalty there. So for me, it was never a penalty. I've seen it twice on replays. Still can't see what's happened there. But this is Tottenham. This is Tottenham, and this is the roller coaster of Tottenham. And yes, it can be tiresome, but my gosh, I was absolutely angry, and it was a good thing there was no one in the house today, because I was effing and blinding like I was at the game. Let me tell you. But I don't know how to feel about it, Chris, is the bottom line. I don't know how to feel about it. There was good bits, but there was a lot of bad, and I think that game pretty much summed up the way we've played all season.
It feels like a defeat to me, if I'm completely honest. And Russ brought up the point that I wanted to come back to you on, Ricky, is that every time in recent years when we needed to win a game, when it's been a must-win, whenever we say as Spurs fans, if we win today, we will go, blah, 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 and we will then, you know, be in a good position for top four, etc. Why every time when we have this pressure do we have these problems?
I don't know, mate. I really don't know. And Russ is absolutely right. You know, there's only one time that I can really remember it, which is, and maybe because it's recent history, but it was that run last year with the Gooners and Newcastle and Norwich. You know, that those were the must-win games, because we had to, you know, keep our head above water to get into that fourth spot. But you know what? History shows you, and it's happened so many times, that it's become a trait. It's become a regularity. It's become something that we do every time that it is time to kind of just go out there and win the game, no matter how. You know, whether that's with flair, whether that's with 8 goals, whether that's scrappy, and whether that's with 1 goal. You got to go out there and get it, and we just haven't got that. We just haven't got it, bro. I mean, again, you know, until Emerson came on, and Emerson didn't really get a chance to get into the game, really. But Emerson was the only other defensive player alongside Romero. You know, Dyer had a couple of nice, good moments, but the majority, it was just too easy to get past him. It was too easy to out-jump him. Same with Longlegs. Too easy to get past him, too easy to out-jump him, too easy to kind of dribble around him. And then Perisic, when you in the defensive phase, he's just nowhere to be seen, really. He's just chasing shadows left, right, and centre. And that's his legs. He can't get back and defend at the pace in which the Premiership is played. Not just the players that he was playing against today, but just how the Premiership is played. So I really don't know, mate. I really don't know. But when you're asking one defender to defend out of a back three, you're always going to have problems. So I don't know, mate. I honestly don't know. And if they knew, then they'd probably fix it. If any one of us knew why that was the case, they'd probably fix it. But I don't know.
Ricky, can I just ask you quickly before we go to Richard? Antonio Conte, is it time for him to go?
I think what Russ said is vital. So, you know, for me, the first time that I said Conte out was after that AC Milan game, where we basically didn't even turn up. We should have stayed in the changing room, really. I think there would have been a better performance in there. But so after that, I was pretty much, yeah, I'm done with this. But you know what Russ said there, when you see it looks like he doesn't want to stay and hang about, and when you hear he doesn't want to stay and hang about. And then when he's threatened the whole time since he's been appointed that he will leave at any moment, at first I thought it was a poker play. I thought it was a poker play to the board to make sure that he got what was required in the transfer windows to build the side to a kind of a competitive side that was looking to win. But then when you just continually hear things like that and the way that he demeaned the fans and stuff like that, and, you know, sometimes he does chat the truth, but sometimes he does chat to kind of protect his own brand and protect his own image and to make sure that he can go on and say it was Tottenham's fault and it wasn't his fault. But I've never seen him come out and claim responsibility for anything, bro. So the last thing that I said on Conte with you was that he has to prove it to me. He has to prove that he wants to be here. He has to prove that he wants to achieve. When he's asking for time and patience, he has to prove that that's what he wants, and he's going to be around for that time and patience, because the time is running out, bruv. Like, it's nearly run out, and the patience, as he said about the fans, is gone. And the reason that is because he is who he is, and he came in to be a win now manager. And what have we won? It's not all down to him. Yes, there's many a problem within the club and the board, and, you know, from top to bottom. Yes, but what has he brought to the table? He stabilized us is the most that I can say. From the time that he's picked us up until this point here, he's pretty much stabilized us. But apart from that, you know. So for me, it's a bit like Russ. It's a bit like you, Chris. You know, if he doesn't want to be here, then see you later. Bye. I mean, what's the point? What's the point?
I'm feeling the energy from you, Ricky. I'm feeling the energy.
I'm trying to stay calm with it, though. I've been so angry recently that I'm trying to just stay calm with it. Do you know what I mean? Sorry, Rich.
Feeling it.
Do you know, before the game today, just a handful of Spurs fans started singing Antonio, and then the rest of the Spurs fan base turned it into another song very quickly, because I haven't heard Antonio Conte's name being sung by the Spurs fans for quite a few weeks now. And it's weird because we all thought he was going to come here, win us a trophy, get us over that line. And then, of course, in the press conference, 48 hours ago, he said, I tried to win a trophy here, but we fouled. Which I thought, you know, as I said to Russ also off air, we should have been playing in the quarterfinals of the FA Cup this weekend. Rich, let's come to you. Let's get your thoughts on today's game.
Well, I think Antonio Conte is still on that sick note. I think that's where he's still off. I think he's today's game really was a reflection of our season. Flattering to deceive. We 3-1 up. We should have never been 3-1 up. We weren't a 3-1 up team for sure. And then just flaky tackles, mismanagement of the game, away from home, really poor away from home. Leicester here, not able to manage the games. Game management's really important in any sport, especially football, especially team sport. When you're on top, then you need to manage that. When you're in a winning position and you're not on top, you need to try and turn the tables. When you look at the stats, 50-50 against the Southampton team, we've got a lot of better players than them. The shots that we gave them, ridiculous. The amount of shots on target until the second half was very minimal. And we were just letting them get behind us. I've seen on the comments a lot of issues around lack of press. Massively agree with that. From the start of the season, I've had a real problem with how Antonio Conte sets up away from home. He sets up away from home that the team is pressing on us, then for us to then break off that. And that's the reason why you look at the previous results. We've gone behind far too early, or the first half of the games has been poor. Now, obviously, the first couple of minutes of the second half, we were off the ball. Again, didn't press, didn't kind of force the game at all. And then Southampton came onto us. I think when you look at the players as well, again, from probably about 3 or 4 months ago, I was talking about if our aspirations are top 4, we need to be defensively, and that midfield and our front 2 or 3, whatever that is, needs to reflect that. And we haven't got that. There's teams in the bottom half of the table that have got better players in those positions. So then you say, well, are we overachieving? And I think we're not a fourth position team at the moment. Yes, the other teams below us have maybe got a couple of games in hand, which I'm sure Newcastle will get a couple of, well, I would say maybe 3 points out of those 2 games and then go above us. Liverpool might even do that as well. That's why, again, a couple of months ago, I said we'd finish 5th, because that's where I see ourselves sitting at the moment. I think aspirationally as fans, we need to hold the board to account with regarding recruitment. And yes, we've had recruitment for Antonio Conte, and he's had some of the players that he's wanted, but we're still massively lacking in areas. Like Højbjerg and Skip today looked overran by pace. Southampton looked like they had more energy, more ideas. We didn't have a plan B. It was all down the wings. And then eventually, when you cut that out, you need to have a plan B. Against Milan, we didn't have that. Today, we didn't have it again. You go 3-1 up. What do? Do you close the back door? Do you kind of bring an extra midfielder in and close that down and try and nullify their pace on the ball? Or do you have something else? There was no long ball up to Kane to hold it up to then bring people in. It was. I thought today was a very terrible game for us. But again, it reflected this season. The season's one that a lot of Spurs fans, that I'm sure Chris, like yourself, that went to the game at St Mary's when actually, let's get these next 10 games out of the way because we want the season over. We want a change of direction, if that's a change of manager, but even the board level as well. What are the board's aspirations for the team? Are they going to back the manager or are they going to go in a different direction? I think the fans need to know at this point.
Well, I think that's a very good point, Rich. I think it's about finishing 4th, getting a Champions League spot. Having gone out, in the last couple of weeks of the FA Cup and the Champions League, the only thing we can play for now is 4th, Champions League football. Now, when you've got a 3-1 lead against a team who haven't scored many goals this season and are bottom of the Premier League, the game management, for me, needs to be a lot better. If you were Antonio Conte in the last 20 minutes of the game, what would you have done differently?
Well, then they need to have an extra player in midfield. They need to have they need to move away from this wing back format. Perisic hasn't showed the skill set that was brought into the team for, which is goals. Obviously, he has shown obviously delivery in some games, but you can't just have that in what Antonio Conte calls his 2 key positions for the team. And I've always, and again, I always talk about Pochettino and the kind of Eriksen player, but that's the reason why I thought we could change the game with an Eriksen player that sitted in that position that could dictate play. Harry Kane, did you see how far back Harry Kane had to come in the last 10 minutes? He was literally in his own penalty box at one point. I was like, what the fuck is going on? He's not going to score shit there. He needs to be in between the posts. He needs to be getting service. And that's a frustrating thing, is that players are now going, we need to make something happen because there's nothing on the sidelines actually dictating that. Top 4, like you say, Chris, is what the aspirations maybe of the board are. But are they showing that on the sidelines? Are they showing that? We've got weapons on the bench. Danjuma, why did he not come on? If that was what was needed.
Club signing.
Yeah.
And then you go, but that cannot happen. If you're fully invested in a manager, it needs to be fully invested in that respect. You cannot go behind a manager's back and then sign a player. But I think at 3-1, what was the kind of talk at that stage? Was it, we can go and push on and get 4 and kill the game off? I think at 3-1, we'd already done that. We'd already killed the game off. Sonny needs to come off at that stage. I think he gave the ball away in key areas. I'm a massive Sonny fan, but I think at that stage, away from home, you need to park the bus. You need to nullify their threat, and their threat was their energy, their speed. They were more adventurous than us. They haven't got a striker. And they scored 3 goals against us today.
Chris, I wonder what Southampton, the players, thought ahead of the Spurs game. Did they think, blimey, this is a good team going for the top 4, we've got to be careful today? Or did they think, we can get at these. We'll play with pace, like Richard said. We'll play fast. We know we can score goals. I'd like to bet you it was the second one
for sure.
And it shouldn't be, you know. And just to come back on Richard's point there about going behind the manager's back, I know that Danjuma came in the last transfer window. I think there's a very good chance that the club knew that Conte wasn't going to stay even then. So, you know, they want to bring in players that they need. It really is, in my opinion, it's part of a Levy stroke owners stroke Conte power struggle now. And I think it's so detrimental for the football club. And isn't there an irony that Pedro Porro has come in and actually looks like the kind of wing-back that Conte ball demands? But he's not going to be there, is he, Conte, by the look of it, in the summer? I think we all know that. You know, but perhaps the bigger question is about Antonio Conte. I don't think we got peak Conte a la 2016 or whatever it is when he went into Chelsea, when he was at the peak of his powers. Same with Mourinho, really, when he came to Spurs. It wasn't 06 Mourinho. It was a watered-down version of it. So buying names in hasn't really worked for Tottenham. I mean, look, I could be wrong. He could stay and we could win everything next season. So I don't want to, you know, bury Conte. But is he a one-trick pony tactically? That's the big question, because I think to a lot of us, it's looking that way.
Russ, I think for me, he definitely needs the players to be able to deliver the plan. That's the thing that I've noticed. When you look at all the other teams he's managed, with the Chelseas, with the Italian teams, he's always had the players that strong spine. Where you look at ours now, Fraser Foster again, like he even made one or two good saves, but I think a keeper needs to be dominant. You need to have somebody that kind of that one-on-one, you know, you're in a battle. It's just a big lump for me that takes about 20 minutes to get off the floor.
I personally think that's a bit harsh, Rich. I think that he made a couple of great saves today, and had it not been for him, we might have lost.
Positionally, I think he can cut down the angles on the crosses. I think when Walcott crossed the ball for Adams, I think he just stayed on his line too much. I think he could have came out slightly and made a bit of a interception there. I think he just looks like a blocker in goal that's not dynamic enough. He doesn't look dynamic enough.
You know what? You know what? Just on Russ's point about the signings and Arnaut Danjuma and you know, Spence. If we remember, Chris, you was there in South Korea. If we remember, there was a Ali Gold interview that he done with Conte when he was asking him about Spence, and I think it just got to the point where we've signed him, and he came out with his statement about it being a club signing. Ali Gold then went back to him and was like, so, you know, asked him a question, and I'm paraphrasing, and asked him a question around the way of kind of saying, so have they gone behind your back? And he was like, no, there's no way that even though it's a club signing, he still signs off on it. So there's no, I feel even though Conte's future is not guaranteed this January, so it would make sense to make a loan signing for him. There's no way he didn't sign off on it. He might not have liked it. It might have been the only option. It might have been the only attacking option with Hill going out the door. This is the only attacking option that we can bring in. But he definitely saw it, and he definitely had to sign off on it for Danjuma to be in the squad. Doesn't mean that he has to play him, though. Do you know what I mean? I just wanted to just back up Russ there.
Well, for me personally, I expected so much more from Antonio Conte, and particularly how we finished the season last season, finishing fourth, getting in Champions League. I expected so much more this season. And of course, you all know I bore everybody to death about wanting a trophy at the football club. And it did upset me in the last 48 hours with Conte saying about, you know, we tried to win a trophy, but we failed, because if we wanted to really try to win the FA Cup, we would have put a completely different team out and actually really gone for it. We didn't do that. I know some people have the narrative of, well, the board say that top four is more important and to rest your players for the league games rather than, you know, these FA Cup games. There is all of that. But surely any manager that comes into Tottenham wants to be putting a trophy in the cabinet. It is an absolute must, surely. Russ, can I come back to you on the point of Antonio Conte's style of play? It's been boring to watch this season.
Yeah.
If and when Antonio Conte does leave in the summer, what type of manager would you like to see in at Spurs? Because we've had serial winners. You've rightly said about Jose Mourinho. We didn't have the real quality Jose Mourinho. We had the one after. I don't really agree with you saying about Antonio Conte, because I think Antonio Conte is an elite manager. He's done it in Serie A, winning the title with Inter Milan. Won trophies everywhere he's gone, very similar to Jose Mourinho. Of course, we had Pochettino as well. Do we go down the route after Conte of another serial winner, or do we go for a younger manager, inexperienced, or bringing in an experienced manager from the Premier League?
Well, that's the £6 million question, isn't it? I mean, I've written down some names here, people who have been linked with the job, which isn't available currently. Ruben Amorim, of course, of Sporting Lisbon, fine young coach. He would be, a bit like Nagelsmann, of course, who's now at Bayern, as we all know. He was linked with Tottenham, wasn't he? Going back in the day as a young manager who could build a team of young players. And it actually suits, I think, Daniel Levy and the current owners for somebody to come in and work with young players, academy players, buy young talent. To a certain extent, Poch was like that as well. So Ruben Amorim, I think, although a very big club in his own country and in the Champions League still, which I have a view that we could still be in it if we'd have turned up against AC Milan. Then you've got Luis Enrique, former Spain and Barcelona manager. He's a bit of a hard taskmaster, slightly unusual. Could be an answer, still pretty young. Thomas Frank at Brentford. I personally like him. I think he's an amazing manager, what he's done with that football club and turning quite average players a lot of the time into really good players. So he could come in very handy at Spurs. Brendan Rodgers, if he leaves Leicester, I'm pretty sure that Daniel will look at him. And then there's Marco Silva, who I was horrified to read about 3 or 4 days ago, that he was top of Tottenham's list, apparently. Well, with the greatest of respect, he did well at Hull, went to Watford, no, Everton, disastrous, and now he's kind of reinvented himself at Fulham. Fulham, right? Not a big club. And I think if, for example, Marco Silva came in, we might play better football. Yes, we might. But that never-ending circle of being a Tottenham fan and performance and lack of achievement is not going to change with someone like Marco Silva. So who do we get? Do we go for another legend? Honestly, I don't know. We tried everything. I don't think the owners know, more importantly.
Yeah. Ricky, let's come to you. Craig writes here, it's a quote from Eric Dyer after today's game. Sloppy mistakes. We lost possession easily. We didn't have control of the game at 3-1 when we should have. Really poor goals. How many times have we heard very similar from the likes of Eric Dyer?
Time and time again. Same old, bro. Same old. It gives me encouragement that they can see the mistakes and that they can figure them out real quickly. But then what discourages me is that it's really hard to fix those problems. It seems to be at Tottenham Hotspur. Do you know what I mean? It's really hard to fix those problems. I don't know, Chris. You know what? I just wanted to jump on the back of the manager talk there, and
yeah,
you know what? I don't think I can deal with another serial winner coming to Tottenham and not winning at Tottenham. Like, I just can't deal with it. I can't deal with it, bruv.
Thomas Tuchel.
Nah, I don't want another Chelsea manager as well. Thomas Tuchel he's a great coach, and I think he will do well at Tottenham in theory, right? But at the same time, as some players fit a club, and when they make the move, they don't really fit the other club. There's some managers that fit a club and that don't really fit the other club. And I think if Tuchel came in, I just don't think it would sit, bruv. I just don't know. But like there's the River Plate manager as well, and I know it's a totally different league and a totally different competition. But Gallardo has been getting a lot of kind of praise for his attacking football as well. And also, we have to remember as well, it's like, what are we going to do here? What are the club going to do? Because when they had Pochettino, it was a 4-2-3-1 formation. It was a high press system. It was an attacking system. It was defending as a unit. Do you know what I mean? It was ferocious. It was no fear. It was bravery, right? And we was under him for 5-6 years. And then soon as Mourinho's turn up, that has been ripped up. Soon as Nuno's turn up, that's been ripped up even more, stamped into the ground. And then Conte's turn up, and there's a whole different system right now. Do you know what I mean? And I accepted it, and I was like, okay, fine, let's go with it, because I'm gonna back this manager. I'm gonna back his system. I'm gonna believe in him and what he says. But it just hasn't worked out. Now, he's not the only manager that can play, three at the back. There are other managers out there. Amorim, for example, who can play three at the back, that's worked with a wing-back system, that still gets a high press and still gets the attacking going left, right, and centre. Do you know what I mean? So maybe somebody like him, if they wanted to continue in the system and in the way of play that they want to do, because what I don't want to do is go to a manager that has a totally different idea. Do you know what I mean? Like, I'm not saying that we can't go back to a 4, but what I'm saying is that if somebody comes in and just rips it up and starts again, how far back are we then? Do you know what I mean? How, we're going to be starting from scratch again with a better squad. Romero, Bentancur will be fit, Kulusevski, etc. So Porro, the new additions have come in and they have improved us, and they will improve us. I think they'll go on to be great players for us. But it's about, okay, cool, what manager is going to come in? What type of football do we want to see? What type of football? Like Brighton, who always bring in the same type of manager. Now, they have different tweaks. They have different kind of advantages and things that they prioritize. But they're the same style of manager. Now, what's going to be next for us? Where are we going as a side? And this is where Tottenham have been lost for seasons, because we just keep chopping and changing and going in opposite directions. And that's why, if we look at the Mourinho money and the transfer window, the only ones left out of the 200 million, I think it was, something like that. Chris, you'll know. But the only ones left is Højbjerg. Do you know what I mean? And this is where we're getting failed signings, and this is where we do spend money, but it's not spent in the right areas. It's because we don't have no clear direction and no clear focus and no clear goal of where we want to go and how we want to get there. And that's what's really important to me. What's next for Tottenham? How they take on the Conte base and how they improve that and go on. If that's what you want to do.
Yeah. Wow.
Well, after the game today, Antonio Conte has just told Match of the Day that the players are playing for themselves and not for the team. And they haven't made any progress this season.
Wow.
Well, who's that down to? Who's that down to?
Yeah.
Who is that down to?
Exactly. That is the disconnect now, quite obviously, between him and the players. And when Richie came out and said the things that he said, Conte tried to play it down. I said at the time, and I thought at the time, there'll be more in that dressing room who've got grievances, who could easily come out. And to say that they're playing for themselves and not for the team, to me, I translate as they're not listening to me.
No, Russ, it's not my fault. That's what it translates to. It's not my fault. It's not my fault. It's them. They're playing for themselves. The same criticism that he had for Richarlison about I is the same what he's talking right now. Well, it's them. It's not me.
This is why I quoted Antonio Conte earlier, Rick, when he said, I tried to win a trophy, but we failed.
Yeah. Do me a favor. He also said he can't invent a win the other day. Just do me. It's making me angry. I said I was going to be calm, and I said I was going to have a smile, and you're making me angry. All right, you're making me angry.
Have a drink.
I'm trying.
Rich, what do you make of these comments?
When you've not got a leader that leads, that's very frustrating. And that's the bottom line. And I think you just need to be, obviously I'm involved in performance sport. And if you've not got that strong leadership that has an impact all the way down the pyramid, And that's why not only Antonio Conte, but also the board as well. And being able to get away with some of these kind of comments and not being held to account as players, you wouldn't be able to do that. Conte's clearly really frustrated with how this season's gone. After last season, I think he felt that he'd build off the performance of last season. For me, the players that we couldn't chip out, that we've already still got in the team and part of the team network, isn't good enough. That isn't good enough. It time and time again isn't. We can go over those players. The 6 or 7 players that continue to come in, and they might come in and do an okay 6 or 7 out of 10 job, but they don't really improve the team. They don't give us anything extra. I've also talked about having weapons on the bench that you can rely on, and Conte doesn't rely on people that are coming on the bench having an impact. How many times, apart from maybe Sonny when he came on and scored a hat-trick, how many times have people come off the bench and had an impact instead of come on off the bench and it's kind of just tipped over? Or like today, not really done anything or not had the time to have the impact. Conte hasn't. I think Conte hasn't got the respect to the squad now. I think, like he says, the players are doing whatever they want because I think they're actually going, what is the plan? What is the direction? What is the expectations of us? What is our vision for this season? Chris, you're saying top 4, but what does that look like? Paint the picture for us. He hasn't done that.
Chris, that's second quote there from Conte that I think it was Craig Dearman sent in to us. I mean, that's pretty strong stuff. You read that and you think there's a single flight to Turin coming very, very soon. Exactly. You really do. I mean, it's the end of the empire because he's never come out and said that about his players. He's never. He said a few things occasionally, but that is like, Brutus.
Yeah.
It's all over. It really is.
How do you empower a workforce by doing that? Well,
you don't. You've got to lead, as you've said, Richard, from the very beginning. You're absolutely right.
You need to do that, and it needs to be whatever the result, whatever the circumstance, there needs to be a positive outcome out of that. So from this result, he needs to be saying, "Look, this is what's gone wrong. This is how we're going to make the change. We're going to stick together as a unit, and we're going to take collective responsibility, and then we're going to move on. We've got 10 games left, got 30 points to play for. Let's go for those 30 points." Instead of that bullshit, it leaves a real bitter taste in the mouth that we're going to take now into the international break and beyond into the next game.
Not sure. I wouldn't have thought the chairman would be very impressed at that.
For sure,
head coach.
Russ, will you be surprised if
what
Conte?
You think of him, by the way.
Will you be surprised if Conte's in charge of the Everton game when we play next?
After reading that, surprised. Yeah, I'd be shocked because it would show incredible weakness on the part of the club. The club are only interested in the financial side of football and the assets that are the players that play football for the club. Okay, so if that boat is being rocked, and let's face it, 3 months' money for them to pay a manager. I know it's a lot of money, but in the great scheme of things, in this crazy financial world of football, that the game that we all love and follow, it's not much a drop in the ocean. But after that, if those quotes are absolutely right, and I'm sure that they have been sincerely sent to us, the second lot, wow, that is a man who's. I'd be staggered if he was Tottenham manager by Sunday. Actually, tomorrow.
But you know what, Russ? You say that, right? There's only 3 months left, and it's a drop in the ocean to pay him off and to say, "All right, thank you very much. Do your thing." All right. But I saw a video the other day, and of course, it could be speculation. It could be absolutely nothing, and I can't even remember which video it was, but I just remember hearing it. That the reason that Daniel Levy will wait until deadline day to sign a player is because he doesn't want to pay him those wages during the summer months. So I know, right? I know, right? So if he gets them right on deadline day, then he's saved like a month or 2 months worth of wages. So and look, again, I'm saying that's speculation. I can't even remember the video. I'd like to credit the guy and I'd like to credit the video so that you guys can go and check it out and see. But it was a rumor, and that's the reason why he signs him on deadline day, right? So he doesn't have to pay the wages. So if that's the case, he might just hold on to Conte so that he doesn't have to pay that payout until the end of the season, bro. Even though it might cost us money, in not getting Champions League. And look, I'm not saying that's true. I'm just saying that's what I heard.
I don't think so, Rick, because it will cost no more than £5 million to sack Antonio Conte, and Champions League football, or indeed Europa League football, is worth a lot more than that. And going back to Russ's point earlier on in the show, if the board felt that we weren't going to get top 4, then they would make that decision.
Yeah.
But
all
right. Ricky, let's stay with you for a second. Let's talk about the starting lineup today. Of course, it was exactly the same team that beat Nottingham Forest at the Tottenham Hotspur Stadium last weekend. And the subs today: Austin, Emerson, Tanganga, Sanchez, Perisic, Sarr, Lucas Moura, Danjuma, Kulusevski. Any surprises there for you? Are you surprised that Danjuma still isn't getting any game time under Conte?
I'm not surprised with the starting lineup. I thought they've done well. I thought it was good to keep a winning side. Obviously, very difficult with the injuries that came in as well. So, we had to, the plan A had gone slightly out the window, and we had to kind of adapt as well to the injuries. I don't know what happened to Richarlison. I think Davies was a massive loss for us because not only does he have a bit of tenacity, and he's not the attacking fullback, on the left side, but he does get up the pitch and he does get back and he does defend and he does know how to close off. And I felt that he's played better there, and I felt that Sonny's actually played better with him as left wing back and Sonny doing his thing. Do you know what I mean? So I think losing Davies at the time that we lost him was definitely a blow. Danjuma, I mean, I don't understand. I don't know what he's got to do to get some game time. I really don't. I mean, I saw an Instagram post of his during the week in which he was in the gym on the bike by himself at about 7-8 o'clock in the evening when everybody else had gone home. So he's working hard. Do you know what I mean? And he's trying to put his best foot forward. He's an attacking player. I thought he was a Conte player all over. He's big, he's brutish, he's got a bit of pace, he can dribble, he can score. He don't mind the rough and tumble. He don't mind the rough housing of the game as well. So I thought he would have been perfect for Conte and the Conte system, but obviously not. Do you know what I mean? Obviously not. I mean, Conte is so kind of rigid with his system and with his players that at this point in time, I think most Tottenham fans, and myself included, have kind of seen the writings on the wall for certain players. As soon as he came out and called him a club signing, we knew he was going to get the Spence effect. Do you know what I mean? Which was, if he's lucky, the last 5 minutes. It's a real shame. I think with Lucas going out the door in the summer, and I think with Lo Celso being at his club, Danjuma's club, you're not giving him any time to shine. You're not giving him any time to impress, and you're not giving him any time to stake a claim to be in that squad or to sign permanently for next season. And if he was to sign permanently, I've said it on this show before, but it would pretty much be a free signing because we'd just go, okay, cool. Look, you keep Lo Celso, we'll keep Danjuma, and let's crack on with life. Do you know what I mean? And let's see how it goes. So it pretty much would have been a free signing. So to not even see him, he's come on. And and in the 10 minutes, 15 minutes that he was on the field, he scored a goal. He scored more goals than bloody well Richarlison. Do you know what I mean? Who cost 60 mil. And you're not giving him any chances. So, it doesn't surprise me, but it still slaps me in the face, and I still don't understand it. Still don't understand it, mate.
There's another comment here, or quote from Antonio Conte. What was happening in the last few months, what is happening in my second season, I think it's the right moment to speak, because I think after this performance for me, this is unacceptable. Rich, let's come back to talking about the starting lineup. Did you expect any changes today? Or as Ricky said, you don't want to break up a winning team after beating Nottingham Forest last week?
Yeah, but I think you look at the last 20 minutes against Forest, we were shit, really. We were obviously went 3 up and then they score and then they get a penalty, they missed it. But they were in the ascendancy, so momentum-wise, they had that. I think we looked quite lethargic in that last 20 minutes of the Forest game. I think that should have sparked, actually, we need to freshen this up a little bit. And Højbjerg, Skip, I think there's frailties there. I think Skippy's all over the place and he's really breaking up the play. I think he's had some really good, like the Man City game was really good, and he's just gone off the ball a little bit. I think Son needs to have more game time if we're going to utilise him in those positions. I just think today, even that first half, we had some opportunities. Pedro Porro obviously had those chances. Easily today we could have won, but I don't think we deserved it. I think the starting lineup again reflected our season. Some good glimpses, but flattering to deceive. I think Kane today had to come far too deep to get involved. For me, I think Sonny should have started on the bench. And maybe Dan Juma come into his place, and like Ricky said, let's see what he can actually do. Away from home is not ideal, but he's not getting any game time at home anyway. So utilise that game to actually see what he can do. Actually, here you go. Here's a starting place. Let's have an impact on the game. Let's show that you can, that you're the player the club think you are. But today, no, I looked at the starting lineup and I went, it just worries me that it's going to be just a backseat team again. There's no real drive from that midfield.
Conte's also said, I see selfish players that don't want to play for each other and don't want to put their heart. Before today, I tried to hide the situation, improve the situation with words. Ricky, can you believe all of this?
No, I can't, bro. No, I can't. I'm swearing under my breath. Let me tell you. I'm. You know what? Every time he comes out with a comment now, I get more and more done. Do you know what, Conte? Take your passport, bruv. Go Italy now, bruv. Go get yourself a tan. Go chill yourself out. I'm done. You're done. Obviously, you can't say things like that, bruv. You can't say things like that. He's been there in charge for how long now? Do you know what I mean? This is his second, a year and a half, whatever it is. A season and a half, and we this season we should have seen what Conte's system was about. What it should have been a Conte team. He had his pre-season. He had everything that he wanted, bro. We brought in the positions that he wanted to fill. All right, they might not have been the number one position, and the one I'm referring to right now is Longley, because obviously we was after Bastoni or a left centre back. And so we've got Longley on loan. So, okay, that wasn't your first choice, but you brought in Perisic, who had a good first half of the season up until the World Cup. But then since he's come back from the World Cup, it's like he's aged 5 years in our side. Do you know what I mean? So, and that's a Conte soldier. So you're talking about a guy that is very strict, very demanding. He needs a lot of things for his side to tick. And we've seen this kind of this mantra being put onto the players. And what have we seen all season? All season. And he wants to talk about the players right now being selfish and playing for themselves. The reason that he's probably saying that is because the players, as Russ said before he left, the players have probably had enough of what he's had to say, and playing that system and playing that boring horseshoe system, which is get up the right side, pass it back into midfield, back across, up to the left, get up that side, come back to the middle, back and forth, bro. They've probably had enough of that and gone, you know what? Forget you. I'm going to do it. I'm just going to go. We're going to play. There's sometimes, bro, you know, me as an actor, right? There's sometimes you will meet a director that you don't get on with, or you don't see eye to eye with, and he might give you a bum steer. He might give you a note, and in your heart and in your soul, you're like, this is not right. This is not right. At the end of the day, it's going to be you that's on camera or on stage. And when they say action, it's going to be up to you to do what you need to do. And sometimes, me as an actor, I've not listened to that note, and I've gone with my heart, and I've gone with my own direction, and I've gone, you know what? And it ended up, luckily, it ended up being the right choice at the time. Do you know what I mean? And I think that something like that has happened with the players, where they've gone, you know what? Forget this. Let's just go and play. Do you know what I mean? Let's go. And maybe that's why he's saying that they are selfish and self-centered and all of this palaver. But again, it's a deflection from himself. It's again, he's not taking no responsibility for no negative result, nothing that's going wrong at the club, nothing that's going wrong with the side, no attitude of the way that the players are playing, the attitude of their play. He's not taking nothing. He's actually putting it back on them. And again, this is a goodbye. Right now, this is a goodbye. About he has to speak now. No. This is goodbye. This is see you later, goodbye. It's not my fault. And Inter Milan, Juventus, AC Milan, come call my name. Call me. I'm available. That's what that is.
Yeah.
Hotspur FC 1882 says here, Conte calling out Daniel Levy's lack of trophies in 2 decades is great. Unfortunately, we can't comment on that because we haven't seen a lot of the comments, but these comments are coming thick and fast. Russ, are you surprised by all of these comments coming out?
No, because I think the vast majority of Spurs fans, one way or another, whether it's the owners, whether it's Conte, whether it's the players, whether it's the style of football, pretty much, excuse me, had it up to there. By the way, Chris, I'm sorry I dropped out, but I do share a home with an Arsenal fan. That's all I'm saying. Okay. But of course, Spurs came through, and I'm back. I mean, I'm quite shocked at the strength of what he's saying in public, particularly the comments to Match of the Day, which people, if they've just joined us, you'll be able to find out, and maybe Chris will put them up again. I mean, it's a succession of things from Conte where he quite clearly is beginning to lose his marbles, I think. And I think Ricky is absolutely right that how can he stay at the club? How can he possibly go in that dressing room for the next Premier League game and look those players in the eyes? I mean that is a question. But on the subject of the players, and this is where I will stick up for Conte a little bit, or more than a little bit, as I've said time and time again, over 4, 5, even 6 seasons, the due diligence on signings by whoever has been responsible for that at the club has been terrible. And that is why we have holes in our squad that are very difficult to fill with proper players, because we've got an awful lot of players who should be moved on at the end of the season. That's another discussion. But who's going to want to buy them? You know, that's the reality. But the recruitment has been terrible overall. There's been 1 or 2 jewels in the crown that have come in, but most of them, not really.
But you know what, Russ? I totally agree with you on this recruitment, right? Because it's purely evident, yeah? But I thought that the time of change was when Paratici came in. Forget Conte. It was when Paratici came in. Before Paratici came in, we was in dire straits. We were Titanic FC. And I was like, you know what? The only thing that I want is for Daniel Levy to step away from the football side, let him continue on his financial side. But I want a football man in a football position to make the football decisions. And when Paratici came in, I think that majority of these signings, really and truly, and signings are always a gamble, but they've been pretty good. He brought in Romero, he brought in Kulusevski, he brought in Bentancur, he's brought in Porro. You know, and before that, it was a very scattergun, lastminute.com. If they're available, we can get them. You know, even Pochettino said back in the day, if I ask for a washing machine, I won't get that, but I might get a dryer that can do the same job. Do you know what I mean? So there is accountability to be held for that recruitment process. But I thought, you know what, from Paratici's come in and he's had a big job to do, which is get players out, get them sold, which we haven't really done, or get them on loan with an option to buy, or etc. etc. And there's been problem players since he's come in. There's been problem players that have come off the books. There's been problem players that have gone out the door, i.e. Dele Alli, and you know what I mean. I can't believe what's happening to Dele right now, but that's a different story. That's a different story. But you know what? At the time, he didn't have a place, and he was a problem player, and they signed him off. They signed him off on a free. Same thing that they done with Sergio Aurier. They just signed him off on a free. So I thought, and I believe that there was a bit of change coming with this whole recruitment. Also, Paratici brought in that ton of scouts. How many people has he got under him as well? There's I can't remember the name, Steinson. I wish Chris was back. Oh, there he is.
Greta Steenson.
Steenson, and he brought in a couple of others. Wasn't there a Davies? Wasn't there a Simon Davies that came in or something like that? Not that Simon Davies, but there was another Davies. There was a ton of staff that he brought in. He was changing everything from the inside out. There was an outreach for scouts as well, you know. So they have been trying to change the scouting system since he's come in. So pre-Paratici, I totally agree with you, right? But if we look at what has happened since Paratici, a lot of those have been good signings. Now, we haven't seen the best of them right now, but they have been good signings. And I think in the future, with a proper manager that wants to be at a club, that is not doing us a favor, that wants to achieve with us rather than for himself, I think that they could do a lot better.
Ricky, I think you make a good point about Paratici. The problem is that he's another one who might not be at the club, depending on how this inquiry goes. So we're going to be back to square one. I'm thinking, just to clarify, the Gareth Bale money moving forward from that. The only player that came out of that was Ericsson. Really, out of that 100 million, whatever it was. I think a bigger loss was Paul Mitchell, actually, who came from Southampton not long after Poch, and he couldn't hang around at the club for too long. And McDermott he had a track record. Huh?
Can I just interrupt a second, because there are a lot of explosive comments from Antonio Conte. He has called the ball out. He says they're used to it here. They don't play for something important. They don't want to play under pressure. They don't want to play under stress. It is easy this way. Tottenham's story is for 20 years. This is the owner, and they don't win anything. They haven't won anything. Why?
Bye.
See you later.
Yeah, there is no way we can wake up tomorrow morning. I don't think that he's still the manager of Spurs after what he said, because it would tell you more about the owners than it would about Conte, I think.
See you later.
Daniel Levy knows exactly what he wants for the football club, right? I'm not his biggest enemy. I'm not on his Christmas card list. He will not deviate from what he believes is right for our football club. Now, whether that's right or wrong is a massive discussion. We've all got our opinions. Once a fly in the ointment appears and rocks the boat like this would be the most vociferous a Tottenham manager has been that I can remember, actually, probably since Martin Jol.
Russ, as a striker, you're judged on goals, right?
Yeah.
As a defender and a keeper, you're judged on your clean sheet. As a manager and a board, surely you need to be judged by trophies, and the board has not delivered that. And again,
undeniable.
And so. Obviously, you're saying Levy's a great businessman, but as we know, football is just like a sink with lots of holes in it. Money it's not a business. It's not a business you can active. And what he's trying to do is he's trying to make Spurs that business with all this Mario Kart blooming things going on.
Well, NFL
kind of stuff.
Yeah.
As fans, what we want to see is a winning team.
Yes.
On the pitch.
Totally agree.
And that is what he needs to deliver. And that is where the fans need to get behind each other and just go, actually, enough is enough. We need to have a change at all levels. If Conte goes, and the board has got some real answers real answers to kind of deliver to us around where we're going and how we're going to deliver these trophies.
I don't think you'll get that, Richard. Everything you say I agree with, but I don't think you'll get that from Daniel Levy, because he's a bit like the Wizard of Oz. When he speaks, it's sanitized by and edited by PR people and what have you. If Daniel Levy would come on a podcast like this, which he never would do, not because it's a brilliant podcast, or phone up and have a debate, for example, with Simon Jordan on Talk Sport, who would take him to task. He won't do it because he actually doesn't need to, I don't think. ENIC bought Spurs for 22 million quid and they valued it at 4 billion. Why should he worry?
Yeah.
You know, I mean, that's the bottom line. And I'm not saying I think it's right, but I do get the way that they think about things, but I totally agree with you. And as a fan, I want to see us brilliant on the pitch and challenging and winning things. I don't want to see Beyonce. I don't want to see the NFL. I don't want F1 karting. I don't want any other sport in that stadium. It's a football club. But maybe they've got it right and people who feel like me have got it wrong. Maybe it is the future of a sport franchise. I don't know. I'm skeptical, but who knows? Time will tell.
Well, Conte has asked where were the players today? There are 10 games to go, and someone thinks that we can fight for, like this, with this attitude, with this spirit, for what? 7th, 8th place? What? I'm not used to fighting for this. It's everyone's responsibility. Ricky, surely Conte cannot continue as Spurs manager after his comment today.
He's been trying to get the sack since AC Milan first leg, mate. He's been trying to get the sack since AC Milan first leg. And you know what? That illness gave him a little period of grace where we're like, and all the Spurs fans, you know what I mean? They sent their love. They sent their best wishes. I remember the Spurs fans, bro, singing Antonio's name while we was playing and Stellini was in charge. But you know what? Ever since, if I really look back, ever since, like I said to you, after the World Cup and we started again, he's not been in this. But since AC Milan first leg, but especially last week, that second leg, bruv, he's been looking to get the sack. He's been demeaning us fans. He's been demeaning the club. And he's disrespecting everybody associated right now. He doesn't even care about the fans or the players that are supposed to play for him. How is he supposed to give them a double session tomorrow? How is he supposed to do that? And how is anyone supposed to run for him when you look at him going, nah, what did you say about me, bruv? That ain't no way. He's been in this game way too long, far too long to be saying those things without consequence, bro, or without knowing what that consequence is. Do you know what I mean? Like, there's no way, bro. There is absolutely no way. Like, Conte, listen, my gosh. You came in with that attitude that you was doing us a favor. You came in for your payday. You know what? I really expected the way that we ended last season to really kick on this season, but we haven't seen nothing. We've seen boring first half football, second half football. We might see a glimpse. We might get a game where we're like, oh, that was good. But consistently, under his tutelage, under his management, under his direction, he's gone nowhere. This club has gone nowhere, bro. Like I said, they just about stabilized. Do you know what I mean? But like, otherwise, what have you done for us? And for him to chuck all those players underneath the bus. Look, we know we've got problems in the board. We know it. We know we've got problems in the board, right? We know it's a different way. But what improvements has he picked up on? What has he done? Instead of crying about your tools, what did you do with them? You won't even go to try and fix the problem with the tools that you've got. You won't even attempt it. You're just like, no, I needed a hammer and I haven't got a hammer. So I'm not going to use the end of a screwdriver. Like, do me a favor. You ain't even tried, bruv. You know what? It's international break. And even that international break, bruv, he was always going back to Italy. He was always going to go. It's not like he was going to stay at Tottenham and train the players that were left over for 2 weeks. He was going to leave the coaching staff and Ryan Mason to deal with those that were left while he went off to Italy. You know what? Just stay there, bruv. Stay
You're right.
in Italy.
Chris,
do what you got to do.
What are the viewers saying? They're sending their comments in. Obviously, I've seen the quotes, but what's the general mood of our fellow fans?
To be honest, Russ, I'm not looking at the comments right now. I'm sorry about that, because these these comments coming out from Conte, I cannot believe.
No.
The club has the responsibility for the transfer market. The coach has the responsibility, but the players, where are the players? I only see 11 players that play for themselves.
Wow.
Yeah, I mean,
He has pulled every single player out today.
Yes, he can't go back in the dressing room with them. Ricky's called it absolutely right, and Richard and you as well, Chris and myself. I mean, it's the end of Antonio Conte at Spurs, because if he did say, well, I'm not going anywhere, I'm under contract, Daniel would have to do something about it, because you can't have mutiny like that with your head coach, can you? It's just not on. You know, and that's the first mutiny possibly of a few more on the way, because, you know, you go to the bank and you take your pile of cash and you get a good level of interest. So you put your money in the bank, right? If you want to next season buy a season ticket for Spurs, well, you've got to have interest in what's happening on the pitch. And as it stands at the moment, no chance. And that's why a lot of people are reconsidering. And, you know, it's a sad situation from where we were even a year ago, you know, when we got in the top four, and we really shouldn't have done, but we did. And we thought, like Ricky said earlier, this is a springboard to better things. And, you know, it's gone sour. And to be honest with you, those quotes from Antonio Conte, even though he might have a point in some of them, they leave a bit of a bad taste in your mouth, I think, overall.
Well, I don't think there's anyone that he hasn't dissed in the last couple of weeks. You know, the fans a week or so ago, the players today, the board. You know, who has Antonio Conte got left on his side? That is the question. Ricky, I know we're an hour and 10 in, and we've not even spoken about the actual game yet because of all of these explosive comments from Antonio Conte. I'd be surprised if he is still manager at 10 o'clock Sunday morning. I really will.
But he was the one that was asking for time and patience. That's what's cracking me up right now.
Wow. Honestly, I actually don't know where we go from here. But of course, in recent seasons, we've played in the Champions League, we've played in the Europa League, we've played in the Europa Conference League. It is now extremely important that we get Champions League if we can. 10 games to go. When you've got the manager slagging off the players, this is not going to be good for the dressing room. So, my opinion, I think it is best off now to cut ties with Antonio Conte and get somebody in who's going to get a tune out of all of these players for the remaining 10 games to finish in the best possible spot. And I'm sure the board will think probably very similar, because it's worth a lot of money to them. Ricky, let's go in. I'm not going to talk about some of the incidents in the first half. It's not worth it, because it was a pretty dull first half. Let's talk about Pedro Porro's goal. Let's go straight in. Pedro Porro's goal just before half time. Great finish from him.
Fantastic strike from him. And he was looking for that goal. We saw a couple of those clips during the week from training of him curling it into the right hand corner with his left foot, and a couple of right footed strikes as well. So, you know, I think that's only a taster of what we're going to get from him. I think that every week he's going to continue to build. The more that he plays, the more he will continue to build, the more he will understand the attacking side as well as the defensive side. And I think that he will be an absolute diamond for us. And I think it will be I'm really hoping, I don't want to say it, but I'm going to say it anyway. But I think he will be the one that will take Kyle Walker's mantle finally, and be the right wing back, the right back that we've wanted ever since we sold Kyle Walker. So, yeah, bro. I love Porro today, and I thought he got me excited, not only for right now, for what he showed today, but I could see that in the future, he's just going to grow. And I think he's going to be dynamite for us.
Rich, there's absolutely no doubt that Pedro Porro is a quality player going forward. What do you think he's like as a defender? You pleased with his performances?
Well, I think he needs to. Well, performances generally have been a little bit. I think he's took a little bit of getting used to the pace and the physicality. Yeah, definitely. He's obviously got that, and he looks like he's able to handle it. But he's not had that obviously when he was playing at Sporting. Clearly, He's got the tools to be able to deliver the balls that's needed. He's more direct than obviously Emerson is, with more confidence, and really does drive into the box. Obviously had a couple of chances before he scored. I, like Ricky, you can see the progress that he'll make through game time. And this is another thing that some of the other players that aren't getting the game time because other players that are playing poorly are getting the game time, and other players aren't able to develop. Pedro Porro, because of the money, the investment the club's made, but also the position, he's going to get that time to develop, to adapt to the Premier League, and also will be a threat on goal, as well as providing the tools for Kane, hopefully in the future as well. Yeah, please. Yeah, it's obviously a steady start. Today showed his real worth, obviously, but the result was the main thing today.
Russ, of course, we went in at half-time 1-0 up. How would you describe the opening 45 minutes? Any different from any Spurs performance this season? Because a lot of them have been pretty dull, haven't they?
I had a fairly grainy feed. First 10, 15 minutes, I thought we started quickly, you know, and to go a goal up and get into the dressing room at half-time, a goal up, you know, we rarely score in the first half, do we? You know,
I was going to say, Russ, I had a grainy feed and I was there in the stadium.
Yeah, well, but obviously the beginning of the second half, such a quick equaliser from the man who isn't a striker, Che Adams. I mean, it's a pretty bad way to start the second half. And then when I was watching it, I mean, Southampton were all over Spurs until we got the second goal. I mean, it was the worst team in the league, literally looking like Liverpool in their pomp. I mean, that's how bad we were. And they must have been really nervous, Southampton, before the game. You get one of the top strikers in the world, Harry Kane, Son. They would know defensively we were a little bit suspect. Everybody knows. But, you know, if we had got a second goal before half-time, for example, I feel that we might not have drawn the game. We probably would have won it and scored in that, you know, knocked the stuffing out of them a little bit. But it didn't happen. And I'm sure you're going to go through the rest of the second half, Chris. But 1-1, their tails are up. They're desperate for points, want to stay in the league, and they wanted it more than we did.
Russ, of course, after a couple of minutes, Richarlison went off injured.
Yeah. Somebody said he looked injured in the warm-up. Is that right?
I'm not sure.
Yeah.
I'm not sure.
Somebody, I was watching a bit of BT Sport this afternoon. Glenn was on there watching the game from St Mary's. He was full of praise for Southampton and a little incredulous of what we were doing, as he would be. And somebody said, when they were talking about it, in the warm-up, he looked as though he'd done something, and why on earth would he start the game if he did? So I don't know if that's true, but it might be a bit of insight that turns out to be significant. I haven't got a clue what his injury is.
What have you made of his season, though, Russ? Because he's still to score a Premier League goal for us.
Yeah, I mean, he was really unlucky against Forest. We were chatting, weren't we, before the game?
Yeah.
At the stadium last Saturday, and said, you know, it'd be great if Richie could score. Boy, he scored, and then it was the VAR toenail or, you know, 1 millimeter of hair. To me, it wasn't offside, but, you know, look, we can moan about VAR all we want. I just think when he plays for Brazil, he's down the middle, isn't he? And he scores goals. You know, it's like Sonny, when he's out on the left, he's not anywhere near as dangerous than if he's in a kind of two with Harry. That's when he does the damage. And, you know, we have a coach who either doesn't see that or doesn't want to play that way. And it's probably a bit of the both.
We are running completely over. Russ and Richard do have to go now. Ricky, are you okay to stay on with me to talk about the second half?
Come on, mate. I'm
all right for 5. Chris, I'm all right for 5 minutes or so. It's fine.
You're up for 5 minutes. Okay.
Yeah.
Rick, let's come to you. At 1-1, how are you feeling at 1-1?
Honestly, bro, I was calm. I actually predicted a 3-1 win today. So I didn't like that goal, but I was like, okay, I predicted 3-1, so they had to score one at one time. So I'm like, all right, and cool, but we're going to come back and we're going to win this 3-1. And then we went 2-1 up with a beautiful Harry Kane, and then the 3-1 came, and I'm like, I'm buzzing because I called it. I spoke to my boys this afternoon. I'm like, I told you 3-1. And then it went the other way. Do you know what I mean? So at 1-1, I was pretty calm, mate. It was a very back and forth NBA type of basketball game. You know, it was back and forth, back and forth, back and forth. And I kind of believed that our class would shine through and we would secure the win. And as soon as we got up to 3-1, I thought that, yeah, that'd be it, really. But like Russ said there earlier, like the whole of the second half, really, it was Southampton's half. And we countered well for the second. And the third was a bit scrappy. It bounced about, but Perisic got a toe on it and it managed to go in. So, you know, but at 1-1, bro, I was calm. I wasn't panicking at all.
Richard, would you like to see James Ward-Prowse in a Spurs shirt in the near future?
Is he good enough for a top 4 team? Wow. Maddison or Ward-Prowse? I think the only problem with Ward-Prowse is he, obviously free kick wise, it's like that is a weapon, right? If you could bring somebody on and off, like a special teams in the NFL, just for free kicks, you'd probably put him on every time. But obviously within the game that we play, you can't do that. Does he affect the game enough in the 90 minutes? I'm not sure, especially against the better teams. And obviously we aren't one of those, so that's why I didn't want to say. Going back to your question, if we've got aspirations for top 4 and beyond, no, not for me. That's why I saw Maddison a better option. And I know the game today, he played well in the second half, and then they came away with a draw themselves, which are in a losing position. But there'll be other players out there as well. There'll be other players out there that are better.
Chris,
right.
Alistair Gold just tweeted, it was the most remarkable press conference I've ever been involved in. If you can imagine every word said in the most furious Italian voice you can think of, that was pretty much it. He got everything off his chest. And then he goes through all the quotes that we've been sharing with the viewers tonight. So obviously Alistair isn't going to say, well, that's the end of Antonio. But it does seem or have a feel about it, doesn't it, that might be the case. They want to continue in this way. They can change the manager, a lot of managers, but the situation cannot change, believe me.
Yeah.
What does that mean?
Yeah. Wow. Rich, I know you need to go. Thanks so much for coming on. I know we've got still a lot to talk about, so apologies for running over.
I'm not Antonio. I've got my passport.
Well done. Good to see you, Richard.
Always a pleasure.
Rich, you've just set up another event, Run with Rich. Tell everyone about it.
Yeah, 18th of June in Nottingham. Those that are around Nottingham on 18th of June, it's Father's Day. Come and join the rest of us around Home Pierpont. I know Chris is still recovering from the London Marathon, but you need to get your running legs back and come back to Nottingham for a beer or two after as well. Yeah. Anybody that comes can have a beer with me as well.
When am I recovering from Tottenham? That's what I want to know.
You need a good antidote for that, mate. Yeah.
Well, Rich, thanks so much. And Russ, thanks so much for joining us this evening.
Oh, my pleasure. And thank you to everyone for watching and listening on another fairly insipid day for our wonderful club. It's messier than ever, isn't it? And that's a reality now. Wow.
Yeah. Well, hopefully we can have you both back on very soon, talking about the Spurs win under a different manager. Rich and Russ, thanks so much.
Ricky, bye, mate.
Take it easy, Russ. Take it easy, Rich.
Ricky. Wow.
Yes,
What a show. Antonio Conte's comments, unbelievable. Unbelievable. I did not expect this today. I'll be honest with you, and this may be stupid of me. I expected Spurs to get the 3 points today. I expected us to be sitting in third spot, having a giggle on here, having a laugh with you three, talking about a win. Good grief, honestly. Where do we go from here? In the 54th minute, Pedro Porro cross, Perisic over the bar. What have you? I know later on in the game he scored, but what have you made of Perisic in a Spurs shirt? Because I've got to admit, in the summer when we signed him, I was quite excited, regardless of his age. He keeps himself very well, always in the gym. I expected so much more from him.
Yeah, I mean, it's a season of two halves for him. Do you know what I mean? So the first half of the season, I thought he actually started quite well. He was putting in a load of assists. I think he was the one that had the highest assist at one point, pre-World Cup. He was also a Conte soldier, and I think that a manager does need a couple of players that know, trust, and believe in the system and in what they're trying to say, and the messages that they put out onto the pitch. He also came in with this kind of this aura of the wing back guru. Not only was he going to be the guy to solve our left-sided problems at left wing back, but he was also going to be teaching Ryan Sessegnon and Jed Spence and Doherty at the time, and he was going to be coaching these guys or giving them, bits of advice to kick on and be the best wing back that they could be. After World Cup, mate, and he had a decent World Cup himself, but after the World Cup, it's just been downhill ever since then, and it's just too easy to beat him. It's too easy to run past him. It's too easy to play against him. And pre-World Cup, where Emerson Royal was the weak link, and everybody went down the right side to get in and kind of score or create. Now, if Perisic is on, everyone's going down that side because it's really easy. And I think that the Southampton manager today knew that. And that's what they targeted. And that's where the majority of the goals came from. That the first goal that we conceded in the second half today came down that side. And the pass just went past Perisic and he was nowhere to be seen again. So I think overall, it's pretty disappointing. It's pretty disappointing because now, if and when he comes onto the pitch, or if he starts the pitch, or if he starts the game, I'm not really that confident that he's going to have a good game, or he's not going to end up costing us, and we've got too many players in the side that end up costing us right now. So, yeah, disappointed, bruv. Disappointed, really.
Well, in the 60th minute, we had a great chance. Harry Kane running towards goal. He had a few options on, Kulusevski being one of them. He shot over the bar. Kulusevski's face looked an absolute picture, very, very unhappy. Harry Kane with his head in his hands. Just 3 minutes later, and this all makes sense to me now, with Antonio Conte being furious. In the 63rd minute, which I found to be quite bizarre, the ball boy had the ball. The ball went out of play. Ball boy had the ball. Southampton player was down injured. Antonio Conte was asking the ball boy for the ball. He didn't release it. He then gave it to him when he went closer to him. Antonio Conte, when he got the ball, started having a go at this young boy, which is most unlike Antonio Conte, because I even said to someone the other day, every time I've seen Conte, whenever someone asks for a picture with him, an autograph or whatever, regardless of whether he's with his family or whatever, or busy, he always does it. And I just found that a really bizarre moment of Conte shouting at the ball boy. It wasn't even as though like it was a rush, because the Southampton player was down injured. Really bizarre. Anyway, a couple of minutes later, Harry Kane, of course, put Spurs 2-1 up. An excellent cross from Dejan Kulusevski. What a finish from Harry Kane, Rick. We've seen this time and time again from Harry Kane.
Yeah, and Kulu hasn't been the same Kulu since after World Cup as well. I mean, he came back, and the little mini pre-season that he had during the World Cup, he looked on fire. I think the first game he came back, and then a bit of the second game, he looked really sharp. But then he got that injury again, and I think that's really set him back. But today, you can't really be angry with Harry Kane for taking that shot first and foremost, Kulu, because strikers need to be a little bit selfish. You know, if that was Jermaine Defoe, I don't think anybody would have questioned it. Of course he's going to run in and take a shot. Of course he is. But what a great, lovely cross by Kulu. And I think that he needed that assist himself as well. He hasn't really been the player that we saw end of last season, but he is a young player. He has come off of 2 bad injuries. And so I think that he's building his fitness and his match sharpness as well. But it was great for him to get that assist. And Harry, and this is where those comments from Conte really kind of get to me, because Harry was one of those guys that is pretty much always there for the team. And, you know, that goal today to make it 2-1 reminded me of the goal that he scored against Man City. When, what was it? I think it was in injury time or whatever it was. And I think that was a Kulu cross as well. And he got his head onto the end of that.
Yeah.
And so it reminded me of that. And to me, that's determination. To me, that is, you know, that is bravery. To me, that is trying to make something happen for the team and trying to kind of get those 3 points in the bag. So you can't be angry with Harry for taking a shot when he did. And for Kulu, I love the fact that he picked his head back up and put a cross in there 3 minutes later for Harry to get that standard, proper, you know, Harry Kane goal. But on that whole Conte thing, bro, with the ball boy, I did not see that on camera. I don't know whether they didn't show it or whether I didn't see it or whether I was looking at the window at the time, but I didn't see that on camera, bro. And again, I think it's another indictment of Conte being gone and he can't wait to leave. As in, like, looking for any excuse. But also, it could have been the frustration off of Harry not passing. But then this is what I'm saying. You can't be angry with Harry when he takes a shot. You just can't, because the majority of the time, they're going to be on target in the goal. Do you know what I mean? Yes, some are going to go off, but the majority of the time, they're going to be, it's going to affect something. So you can't be angry with him. So for him to have a go at the ball boy, bruv, I don't know what's going on, mate. Don't know what's going on. Dire straits.
It just seemed really out of character, from what I've seen of Antonio Conte, Rick. That's why I thought I would point that out. After 75 minutes, of course, Ivan Perisic got his first goal in a Spurs shirt, and by that point, you thought 15 minutes left. You're playing bottom of the league. We're going third tonight. Easy,
bruv. Easy. Yeah. Absolutely. And I really thought that third goal would have taken the wind out of the sails of Southampton, but credit to them, it really didn't. Even with the changes, I mean, maybe I would have tweaked it a little bit, but even with the changes, bringing Sarr into midfield, bringing on Emerson, trying to shore it up, leave Harry and Sonny up. I mean, maybe I would have taken off Sonny at that point, put on Danjuma just to have a bit of a spark up there. But we know what's happening with Danjuma. We spoke about that already. But I thought bringing another player into midfield was the right thing to do. And I don't blame Sarr for conceding that penalty, because to me, and viewers, listeners, I'm sure you've seen it. So if you're there, make the comment. Let me hear you. Because to me, to what I saw, that it was nowhere near a penalty. It was nowhere near a penalty. It was a player that was watching the ball, that was trying to defend on the edge of his box and kick that ball outwards. The Southampton player comes in from nowhere with his running back and drops on the floor, bruv. Like, to me, at most, you can say it's not even a clash of players. It's a brush of players. So I don't know how and which rule that falls under of a penalty, but it was never a penalty for me, and I wouldn't blame Sarr for conceding that penalty.
Ricky, right now, the players and Antonio Conte will be on that bus on the M3, right? If you were a player, and obviously all these players are on Twitter, on Instagram, social media, they would be seeing all of these comments from Antonio Conte. If you were a player, would you approach the manager and ask him what he means by these comments? How would you be feeling sitting on that bus with your boss a couple of rows in front, knowing what he's just said about you and your teammates?
I think that maybe someone like Harry being the captain and having the armband and being the biggest star at the club, I think somebody like him would probably question him and say, what do you mean by that? But then maybe this has been in the water for a long time. Maybe the boys, the players at the club, they've all seen this happening, the cracks happening for weeks and weeks and weeks. So then it's almost like, what's the point? Do you know what I mean? We already know what he's going to say or not going to say, or already know the look that he's going to give. The thing is that right now, with those comments and with the type of manager that Conte is, he's not getting any response out of one of those players, not even a youth team player. Not even the groundsman is going to listen to Conte come Monday morning, bruv. No one's listening to him. It's time. It's done. It's not just... Look, you can speak truth. Of course you can speak truth. Pochettino spoke truth. He spoke it in a very calm and well-mannered way, in a way in which he got his message across to the board and to the fans, but at the same time, he didn't disrespect anybody. Do you know what I mean? He spoke about the furniture. He spoke about building a new house and putting the furniture in it, and you can't just have IKEA furniture. You need to go to Harrods to put, Harrods furniture in a Harrods house. He done it around about, and he done it the best way that he could do it. We've seen the frustrations of many a manager be at our club, and they seem to be the same frustrations. But a manager like him, he shouldn't be saying those things the way that he's saying them, and he shouldn't be burning every bridge. And the only reason he's burning every bridge is because he wants to get sacked and he wants to get his payoff and he wants to go back to Italy in this international break, clear in the mind that he's not returning to England. Now, we know that he's had bereavements, friends have passed away. But I will say here now to you, my friend, you speaking to me during Panto in Torquay, a great actress that I was working with, phenomenal, Ruth Maddock, who was in Heidi High back in the day and has been in many of things. But the thing that she's most recognized for is Heidi High. Wonderful lady. She passed away during the show. She didn't even get to do her first show. Just before we was about to go into our first show, I think it was she went into hospital on a Wednesday, and a Friday we had our first show, and on the Saturday we found out that she passed away. And at that point, there was a big emotional state. There were, everybody was devastated. I in the short time that I knew her, I created a great bond with her. Do you know what I mean? And I was really precious of her. I was looking after her and she was looking after me. And she was like that with a lot of people, and she had that effect on a lot of people. And when she passed away, bro, the emotional void that was there throughout the cast, right? And the option was there. The option was there not to do the show on that Saturday evening. But Ruth, the way that she was and the way that she spoke was, she came from that old school, which was the show must go on. And if she would be more upset if you cancelled the show because of her. Do you know what I mean? Even if that was because she had an injury. Do you know what I mean? She would have been more upset that you cancelled the show, that you let down a whole audience that have paid their money to come and see their Christmas show, for her. So the cast ourselves, we all got together and we all decided, okay, cool. Well, we're going to carry on and we're going to go out there and put a show on the stage, no matter how tough it is. And it was a tough show, bruv. It wasn't the greatest show that night. Everybody's heads was everywhere else, and it wasn't the show that it was, at its best. It really wasn't. There were so many things that happened, but we got through and we done it, right? And every day we then continue to do it. And sometimes you've got to push through. Sometimes you've got to do it for those people that you've lost, because you're doing something, you're dealing with dreams. And it's the same with football. You're dealing with dreams. To be in a management position, or to be on the field, or to be a player and to play in this Premier League, or to play for the club that you've loved, that you've grown up with, it's a massive blessing that not everybody gets. Not everybody gets to do the job that they love to do. So sometimes you've got to pull yourself up and kind of go, okay, cool, I'm going to do it for you. And you know, we've given him time. We've given him moments to kind of, and excuses, you know, to kind of go, okay, cool. All right, cool, mate. We know you've had a loss. We'll give you what you need to get. You know, we'll give you what we need to give you. We'll give you respect. We'll give you kindness. We'll give you understanding. But at the same time, you've got to come back and go, you know what? Because I've lost these people, because they are my people, I'm going to give as much as I can give, or I'm going to try and do the best that I can do, because I'm the one standing here. I'm the one breathing. I'm the one that can see. I'm the one that can do. So let me go. Let me go. Do you know what I mean? And even that, bruv, we haven't really seen, you know? It just seems like he's taken us for granted. He's lied to us. He's got paid. He's increased his reputation by slagging us off and increased his bank balance, bro. For me, it's so sour now that he can't even get on the bus. He better call an Uber, bruv. He better call an Uber. I don't think the players will let him on the bus, bruv, let alone Daniel Levy. There's no way. There's no way. Get an Uber or stay in Southampton. It's a really nice town. They've got some nice bars there. They've got a little bit of a beach. Do you know what I mean? Like, stay there. Do what you need to do, bruv. They've even got an airport. You can fly straight from there to Italy. Do what you got to do, but I don't think he's getting on the bus.
Do you know, I ought to say to all of the viewers and listeners that Ricky and I were probably Antonio Conte's #1 fans.
Yeah.
How you know, a few weeks, a few months can change. Ricky,
that's what makes it hurt even more, bro. Go on, sorry.
What about Harry Kane? Do you think that today is probably the day that Harry Kane has made his decision whether he wants to stay at Spurs or not?
No, with Harry, you just never know, bro. You just don't know. Listen, let's get. Ever since he burst onto the scene, he was always being sold.
My point is that is he going to stay around for another project in trying to win an FA Cup or a League Cup? You know, is he going to stay around for that? If you were Harry Kane, let me just ask you this very, very direct question. Yeah. And Sky Sports asked me this question a couple of weeks ago. You know, if you were Harry Kane's brother or you were Harry Kane's dad, what would you be saying to Harry Kane? Leave or stay?
Bro, if I was Harry Kane and I had gone through that youth system and I had loved and breathed and sweated for that shirt and for that club, and then I've got to the heights that I've got, there is no one else I'd rather be with. Oh, 1 minute. There is no one else I'd rather be with and win a trophy with than the team that I love and have always loved. So, I mean, I said this to Costa the other night. I asked Costa the other night, I said, well, would you take winning 6 Grammys with the Backstreet Boys or a possible one Grammy with Blue? Do you know what I mean? And he was obviously like, well, of course, Blue. They're the boys. You know what I mean? Like, they're my family. And that's what I mean. Sometimes the heart wants what the heart wants. And I don't think, I mean, he might push to leave. And if he pushes to leave, then I'm not gonna be upset with him. You know, he's given us his whole career. So I can't be upset with him. People have sold him every single year since he burst onto the scene. He's been going Man United every single season since he's burst onto the scene. But he's still at Tottenham and he's still wearing a cockerel on his chest. You know, and he's still up for the fight. And
well,
I think
Rick, would you
sorry, I was just to close. I was just going to say that's why I think that Champions League is important. You know, for someone like Harry, because he can't wait another season and do Europa League or Conference and then go back in. He needs to be in the Champions League next year, and that's why it's important. Go on, crack on, mate. Sorry.
Would you take the 1 trophy with EastEnders or 10 with Coronation Street then?
1 trophy with EastEnders, mate. Easy. It's easy. It's the same thing, bro. You know, like at the same time, I'm gonna love and respect Corey. Yeah, let's say Corey calls me. I'm gonna love and respect Corey. I'm still gonna put my best foot forward. I'm still gonna do the best that I can do for him. But if you're asking me, do I win 10 trophies with Corey or 1 with Easties? I'm always gonna go with Easties. EastEnders is where I'm an East London boy. I grew up with EastEnders. Do you know what I mean? So it would mean that much more for me to lift the biggest trophy, the BAFTA or whatever the biggest trophy is, with EastEnders and with the people and representing the area that I've come from and the community that I come from and representing all of those things and representing a boy that came from nothing and got to this place and and then lifted that trophy. That to me would be. I would love to give that inspiration to the other people that were in my position growing up, you know, that are in low privilege houses or schooling or financial backgrounds, you know, those when the teachers or your careers officers are like, you're not going to make it, you know, in your dream profession. Well, I managed to do that and then get to that height and then lift it with EastEnders, bro. There's no sweeter victory.
Yeah. Right, Rick, let's get back to the football.
All right then, coming in.
After 77 minutes, we were 3-1 up. They had a shot, long range. What a save from Fraser Forster. What have you made of Fraser Forster in a Spurs shirt? Of course, Hugo Lloris has been out. One thing I would say about Fraser Forster playing in goal for us, you know, you think since Hugo Lloris has been out injured, you don't hear anyone saying, when's Hugo back? We need him back.
And that is a great sign in itself. I think Forster's done well. You know, he uses his frame well. You know, I'm going to take on board what Richard was saying earlier and watch it back and just have a look. But I think he's done well. His shot stopping has been good. I think the biggest thing that I've been impressed with him has been his distribution with his feet. The fact that he's comfortable with his feet. The fact that, you know, when you play that type of football, going back to the keeper or out to the wing backs, out to the centre backs, but using a keeper as a player, I think that's where Hugo struggles. And I think that's where Forster has actually looked really good. So I think he's done well. And I think he's been one of the best number twos we've had in a long time.
Yeah. What did you make of Southampton's second goal in the 77th minute? Walcott scoring.
I couldn't stand it. I was angry at that point, mate. And I can't believe that he scored as well. You know, like, you know, it's another kind of guy that hasn't scored for 8 seasons, then suddenly starts to score. I think it was 2 seasons. I'm exaggerating, but just undone again by pace, really, more than anything. And it was the sweeping move that done us more than anything. But I can't believe that we let him score. Do you know what I mean? I can't believe it. The guy that should never have gone to the World Cup, you know, and that was Jermaine Defoe's place. And I've still got that grievance with Walcott. The fact that Sven picked him and not Defoe. I know it's not his fault, but the fact that Sven picked him with no game time and left Jermaine Defoe at home for that World Cup still does my nut in.
Well, 11 minutes from time, Fraser Forster with another big save for Spurs. And then 5 minutes from time, Antonio Conte brings on Emerson and Sarr for Pedro Porro and Dejan Kulusevski. And then, of course, in the last minute, James Ward-Prowse with a penalty. Rick, you've already covered whether you thought it was a penalty or not. And then, of course, the game ended 3-3. Now, the match stats today... weirdly, Spurs only had 3 shots on target, and of course, we scored 3 goals. But possession 50-50. Shots, Southampton had 19 to Spurs 17. Shots on target, Southampton 7 to Tottenham's 3. Corners, Southampton had 10 to Tottenham's 3. And fouls, Southampton 13, Spurs 8. Now, the league table, Spurs remain 4th in the Premier League, 49 points now from 28 matches. We have Newcastle, Liverpool and Brighton just below us. Newcastle have 47 points, just 2 points behind us with 2 games in hand. Liverpool have 42 points from 26 matches. And Brighton 42 points from 25 matches. There is a lot of games to play, still 10 games, Rick. April coming up. We have to play those 3 teams behind us. We've got to play Everton, Brighton, Bournemouth, Newcastle, Manchester United and Liverpool. It is a huge April coming up. Dare I ask this question now after Antonio Conte's comments this evening? Where realistically do you think that Spurs will finish? Because I've got to say to you, I'm sitting here not feeling that confident that we're going to get Champions League.
Bro, under Conte's stewardship right now, I and after those comments and after he's burned every single bridge and after, you know, he gets to the next home game where the fans, you know, he's got to come face to face with the fans if he's at the next home game, Conte.
Yeah.
Bro, and if that happens, then I don't foresee us you know, finishing in that top four. But this is where you know the board have got, and Levy, they've got to make the. It's not even a hard decision right now. You've just got to get rid of him, and Mason probably until the end of the season. Or if you really want, if Poch is the guy, right? Because and the reason I say it as well, because Poch is available right now. Anyone else you got to buy out of their contract. But if Poch is the guy, and the Poch is the guy that you want to put all your eggs in a basket, and somebody who really wants the job, and somebody who will be here for a long term, and somebody who will go through the highs and the lows for us to get us to the promised land, right? Then I would say bring him in now, give him the last 10 games, because you know Poch, he normally needs a season for all of the squad to get used to his training methods and the high demands and his fitness levels that he needs to play his game. So use those 10 games as almost like Pochettino's preseason with something to aim for, to get those tactics in, or to do that. Or you give it to Mason and you go on, Mace, you know, go make it happen, bro. And then we'll take what falls. You know, as long as the boys go out there and give everything they've got for the 90 minutes, win, lose or draw, we can kind of handle that. We might be disappointed, but we can handle that if you leave everything on the field. And I think that they're more likely to do that under someone like Mason than they are under Conte right now. Because Conte won't even be able to get an Uber back from Southampton, bruv, like I was saying. He's going to have to bloody well get a Boris bike and cycle home, bruv, because it's just not happening for him, bro. And if that coach sees him on the motorway, they might swerve. Do you know what I mean? And just, I don't know. I think it's done and dusted.
Never in a million years did I think that me and you would be on a podcast this season saying that we want Antonio Conte to leave.
Yeah, nor me, bro. And that's why it hurts even more. That's why it hurts even more, because, you know, it's not like he's been mysterious or cryptic last week. He's done that the whole time he's been here. But you know me, bro. I'll try and look for the nuance, or I'll try and look for the subtext, and I'll kind of go, oh, he's saying this because of this, or he's saying that, and it's all for the betterment of us. He hasn't. It's all culminated to this point where, see you later. I don't even want you to sign that new contract. I don't want you at the club no more, bruv. And that's what hurts even more, because I bought into him. I bought into the philosophy. I bought into the win now manager, the win now players, and we're changing the way that the whole of Tottenham thinks and feels and pushes forward. And it's all come to this. And that's why it hurts even more. And Conte, for all of them times that we sung his name, for all of the times that the boys did get behind him, bro, you're at most away games. You're at most home and away. You're at every home and away game. You know what that crowd is like, bro. You know how many times the crowd has picked up or gone, come on, Tottenham, let's push. When they've had a dip, you know, they've backed Antonio. We went mad at January to make sure that Antonio got something. And even if that was at the very least a right wing back that could fit his system, we went mad at the board and at the club. There was protests and everything. Back Conte, back. There was a hashtag, back Conte. Everybody that said on this podcast, back Conte, back Conte. And you're telling me now, in March, at the end of March, well, middle of March, wherever we are, that now it's gone to pot. And I don't even want him anywhere near the club. I don't want him nowhere near the training ground. I don't want him nowhere near the shirt. I don't want him nowhere near the pajamas. I don't want him nowhere near us, bro. I don't want him nowhere near North London. Do you know what I mean? Like, do what you got to do, because everything that you've said has been, it's been rubbish. It's been a joke.
Well, Ricky, thanks so much for joining me this evening. I'm sorry to the viewers and listeners. There was like a skeleton script for this show, and it's gone completely out the window this evening with Antonio Conte's comments. Of course, Russ and Richard left us early. Thanks so much to you, Ricky, for carrying on talking to me about the problems and the game today. But Spurs are still in the top four. That is all we can hope for. A good European finish at the end of the season, no matter who the manager is. I'm sure there'll be another live show extremely soon, because I'm sure there will be some kind of developments one way or another. Ricky, tell everyone where they can find you, what you're up to at the moment.
You guys know where you can find me. I'm probably going to be on the next Chris Cowlin talks Tottenham at some point. At the next game, probably. You can find me at Ricky J Norwood on Twitter, and on Insta you can find me official Ricky Norwood. But bro, I just want to say a little something to every single fan out there and yourself. There are brighter days ahead. There are brighter days ahead. This side and the players some of the players that we've got, yes, some of them need to go, but there are some gems in there. And this manager that we've had has not got the best out of them. Really hasn't. It's got almost the least out of them, almost just the bare minimum out of them. So trust me that there are brighter days ahead, and this might be a tough season, especially with them lot down the road being top of the league right now. And who knows how that's going to finish. But let me tell you, there will be brighter days ahead for Tottenham Hotspur, because we've got a dynamite side and we are trying to go in the right direction. Fingers crossed we get the man in charge that can weave some magic, and we'll be on our way again. So don't lose the faith. The light will be back. It's not all darkness. We'll have it. And until next time, I'll see you then.
Thanks for watching, everyone. If you don't subscribe to the channel as yet, please do hit the subscribe button. And if you are listening to this on an audio platform, please do hit that follow button and leave a review if you can. And of course, follow Ricky Norwood on Twitter. We'll see you soon. Until then, come on, you Spurs.
Come on.